All right. Good morning, everybody. We are live, and I have a very interesting topic for today's episode, which is how do you deal with sensitive data in Snowflake? Well, not deal with, but how do you secure sensitive data in Snowflake? Why is it important? And also, how can you actually do that today? But to show us how to do all of it, I have with me a very special guest today who is a Snowflake squad member, which means he's been a Snowflake champion and a power user in the community for a year now. And without any further delay, let's welcome Himanshu to our show. Himanshu has about 3 decades of experiences working with different data tools and databases, starting with Informix, SQL Server, Oracle, and currently in the whole data ecosystem, including Snowflake. He's also currently working in higher education, where he's helping migrate the ELT ETL processes using Data Stage and Oracle, from Data Stage and Oracle to Snowflake systems. Very excited to have you here, Himanshu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vino. Thank you, Snowflake, for having me here.
I did not mean to age you out, but 3 decades of experience working with data tools, that's crazy. You have a lot of stories to tell from the trenches, I hear.
Yeah, starting from Informix to SQL Server, Oracle, and now Snowflake.
Right? I was like, Informix, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. It's also very interesting. But talking about the topic today, I feel like as data practitioners, irrespective of whichever tool and platform that we're working with today, dealing with and securing sensitive PII, PHI, and other sensitive data is like paramount to our role. We're dealing with it every day. How did you get started on this specific topic, or like what is something that you're working on this topic, and how did you decide, oh, this is going to be very interesting for data practitioners?
See, basically, when I was working with the data, I saw that there could be a situation where if we use Snowflake's ability, where it automatically, when it loads the data from the files and creates your landing table by using that enable schema evaluation thing, you may be caught surprisingly if your PII data comes and if your landing schema is exposed to the reports, which means, if your whole PII data is exposed to the users. So, I thought, let's see how we can find out, or how we can see whether there is a way to catch that type of information before it is exposed to the users. So that's why I started working on it, and I was going through one of the demos, and then said, okay, demo looked little complicated, so let me try it by myself. And then I tried, and it took me 7 or 8 hours during the weekend to come up with that document where I have the sample data and all the steps. But then finally I was able to achieve it.
Got it. Yeah, I think for data engineers, we are working with, say, using infer schema and enable schema evolution for most of our, data ingestion side of things.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing, if you do not pay attention to, is that when you have this enable schema evolution, if you do happen to have some PII data and they're not properly, named specifically in the column name and whatnot, there are chances that it will slip through and actually land in your production table with the PII data, right? Again, different people have different naming conventions on the
Yeah.
columns. Sometimes I just call SSN as something else, and then Snowflake has no way of identifying it, and there is your production table with all the SSNs exposed. So that's a good gotcha. That I think it's a good gotcha moment that you paid attention to. Now I'm like, okay, how do I deal with this? And how did you actually use Snowflake's features to, I guess, secure and mask those PII data? Do you want to talk us through it?
So, Snowflake has this classification system where it classifies your data. And, it is not only your US SSN, but there are, I think, 40 or 50 different types of data which can be tagged and identified. And then once you tag it, you can use the tags and the masking policy to tag your data so that data is not exposed to the users. Those are the steps where you could do it. And this is especially true, when you use any ERP. And most of the time, when what happens in ERPs, the screen may create a new field where they may call it an SSN or a whatever PII data they are using, but in the table it will not be called as PII. It will be some type of random numbers, and those type of things can be captured by this feature in Snowflake.
Gotcha. And also, do you want to walk us through like why is this important?
The reason why it is important is, one is, uh, everybody knows that your data is important. And if you leak your data, it carries you a lot of financial risk as well as a lot of litigation.
Mm-hmm. True.
That's one of the reason why.
I hear you. I think some of us, if you're not from a certain industry, say healthcare or financial sector, I think can maybe underestimate like this data leakage or like leaking sensitive data into your production database. But specifically if you come from certain industries and sectors, it becomes extremely important to make sure your data is secure and these sensitive informations are not leaked out for everybody. And when we talk about sensitive information, what exactly is that? Is this, I see that SSN is a good example for everybody to understand, and is there a list of things that you have, like what are the
Yeah, when you mean sensitive data, it could be like your SSN, or it could be your address, it could be your salary, it could be your what happens. Snowflake divides that data into two parts. One is called an identifier. An
Mhm.
identifier could be your bank account number, your driver license, your Medicare number, national identifier for different countries, and passport number, phone number, street address, tax identifier, email addresses. And then there's a second set which is called a quasi identifier, which could be your addresses, date of birth, gender, latitude, longitude, marital status, occupation, date of birth. And then there is something called a sensitive, which is called, which could be your salary. And when you say PII, Snowflake has different abilities to identify whether it's your US SSN, Canadian SSN, or New Zealand SSN, and India's Aadhaar card, organization identifier. Passport could be from 7 or 8 different countries, and they keep on adding those countries. So it's not only for US, but it's for different countries around the world also.
I think that's very interesting. And also, this looks very comprehensive because, like you were saying, right, different countries would have different identifiers. And
Yeah.
I think the US license, for example, because I've worked in this whole named entity recognition at a different
Mhm.
project in my previous experience, literally all these 50 states have their own format for what driver's license must be. So think
Yeah.
about writing 50 different regexes, or
Yeah.
at least a few, like 30 or 40, if some states happen to have similar format, just to validate that specific thing, driver's license in the US, and make sure you're, securing that data. That seems like a lot, but I'm glad that Snowflake is giving us all these features that I could use to secure my
Yeah.
data. Interesting. Also, I did not think some of these quasi identifiers are also identifiers, I guess. We've not traditionally seen them as like sensitive data, but because they can essentially identify you as a person and sort of go back. I think this whole GDPR and CCPA
Yeah.
have, like
Correct. Correct.
reform how we see, like privacy or PII data.
Yes, different countries may have. Some countries will be so strict that they won't allow your addresses also to be exposed. And
Mm,
some countries like Swiss are more stricter. They won't allow that addresses to be seen outside Switzerland. So, those type of things are
mm.
also got by this feature.
Got it. This is fantastic. And I'm excited to see like how you have used the Snowflake tag and masking policy to actually, secure these sensitive data in a working demo. But before we go to the demo, I want to ask the audience, folks who are watching here, what are some ways that you have noticed that despite your best efforts, that you see that, sensitive data sort of leak into the production database? Or, I mean, or How are you exactly dealing with it today? If you've not been using these tags and masking policies, check it out. Or if you have any other questions, also let us know in the comments. We will get to these questions by the end of the demo. Awesome. Now I think we are ready to see the feature in action.
Yeah. Vino, you want me to show the slides or you want me to go to the demo?
I think we can do the demo.
Okay, fine. So, first thing what I did was created a very simple table which contains different column, and some of them are, your account number, first name, last name, and these three columns, per number, SSN, and 9 character. These are of our interest, where we are going to test. And as this contain SSN, or the data in the format of an SSN, where some may have a dash, some may have a space, and some are consecutive numbers and different combinations. And you see one of the column is called an SSN, which will be automatically captured by Snowflake's regex identifier. Okay, so let me create this table and insert these rows. Sorry.
All right.
Okay, so if you see, I'm logged in as an account admin, and I should be able to see the data.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing everything here.
Perfect.
Now, in my next, I will create, I think I've already created the role, but for the demo purpose, I will just create a role called analyst, and then I will log in as an analyst. And then if you see that, I'm logged in as analyst, and I'm able to see my data. I'm
Mm.
able to see the per number, which is SSN, and SSN and 9 characters. Now let's come to the next step, where we will call the Snowflake's classification method, where it is going to classify the table, and I don't have any custom classifier. The second parameter is for custom classifier.
Got
Now
it.
I will call this classify method on this particular table.
Mhm.
Okay, and if you see, it will return you a JSON object where it will tell you what type of objects have been identified, on
Mm.
what tag has been applied, what is the confidence level. If you see, email has been identified as a privacy identifier, privacy category as identifier, semantic is an email,
Mhm.
and first name is also identifier, semantic is name. Same with last name. 9 characters were not identified because the way Snowflake goes, I think it goes by the column name. SSN was identified, and
Mhm.
I think that was the last column. Okay. So now what we do is Snowflake has given us an ability to create a custom classifier. So when you say you create a custom classifier, there are 3 steps. Basically, the first step is you create a custom classifier and just give it a name. So this is the way step 1, where we do, sorry.
Mhm. No worries. I think before we see the custom classifier, I want
Yeah.
to recap what we did so far, which is firstly, we created some sample data and inserted into these tables. And we used the classify function, which is out of the box system function, to just run the classifier on this sample data that we inserted. Very interestingly, based on the name of the columns, if you named the column as social security, it is able to mask it fine. But if you just named it something else, it's not able to identify. So your, you know, sensitive data is leaking into production. Again, you know how we are as data practitioners. We try to name things right, but you can never know how and where this would go wrong. So in cases where things are not, the columns are not named by the PII categories, things might not go as expected, which is where you want to create a custom classifier. In this example, now you will show us how to create this custom classifier for SSN.
Okay. So, the first step is you create a classifier string. Here I'm calling it as an SSN string. And this is the most important. This is the brain where you add a regex method. And this is your search criteria. I am saying that the first three characters are digit. Next one could be a space or a dash. Next is 2 digit
Mhm.
and dash or a space. And the last one is four numbers, 4 digit numbers. And I'm saying it should match. Threshold limit is 50%. You can give it, I think the default is from 0.1 to 99% or something like that. And this is where I create a regex.
Got it. I think the threshold value is interesting because
Yeah, yeah.
only if in the
Only,
entire column more than 50% of matches the regex that we give, it will identify. And it's customizable. So you can, of course, make it 90%, 100%, or even like one is like still concerning for you, right? So that's
yeah,
very interesting.
correct. Okay, so then comes the second step where you create the masking. What
Mhm.
this will be joining your, or you create a mask, and I create a mask by the my tag by the name SSN. I think it will be an error saying that this already exists. Okay, let me drop this. I create a tag and then I create a masking policy. I have made a very simple masking policy. You can make it more complex, have select from the database and do those role mapping. But for me, it is very simple. If your role is account admin, then show the data, and or else just show star star star. And the third step is assign the tag, assign the masking policy to the tag. Okay. And the next step is where you create a classification profile. And
Mhm.
this is where you are joining your custom classifier and the tagging. Two things.
Got it.
Yeah. This is where you create this and this. Okay. So a new classification profile is created and I have named it as SSN classification profile. Now comes the step where we are going to say that run my classification. And if you see in the first step, where the previous steps where we ran this classification method, we did not, it was null. Here I'm passing my custom classifier on this table. So
Perfect.
now let's run this. Okay.
Awesome.
And this is the output that you get. If you see, email was there as per the custom also, and it is captured here. First name is there, last name is there. And here this 9 character is also captured because this is matching our SSN pattern. And the same thing with the person number. So this, as you see now, those 2 columns also have been marked or tagged as identifier, and they gave a semantic category of national identifier regex. Okay, and the last one will be SSN. Okay, now if I select my data, if I select my data as an account admin, I think I should be seeing all my rows. And if I change my role to analyst, I won't see the data. So this
Awesome.
is, yeah. So now your data is secured. If those columns are matching, none of the users other than account admin can see the data.
Mhm. Yep. I think this is okay. Can we go when we created this custom classifier? Did we say to look for a specific column only, or did we just apply
Mm.
for the whole table?
So we know you can you there are more like we checked for a particular table. Okay.
Hmm.
Now you can say go for the whole schema. Okay.
Oh, I see. Perfect.
Go for a particular table.
Hmm.
Okay. And you can say that sometimes like like the address. If you see the address is also a 9-character number, US postal address, the zip code.
Oh, I see.
I think the first 4 or 5 are
The common one.
the common one. No, no, what is it called? Your address, the zip code is basically 9 characters, and that
Mhm.
also will be marked. So if you want to say that, you know, don't tag those columns, it won't be captured as an SSN. Don't classify my skip classification for those. Now, your question was, did you save any particular column? No, I did not say. So what happened when I ran this process? It looked into this table and looked into all the columns and tried to match the pattern. And if it was matching, and if it was a particular percentage, it was tagging them as a how do you say, as an identifier, PII identifier.
Got it. Okay. I think this is interesting because we have a question from, I think, Sumit, who's asking, how about role-based access control so that only authorized users can view or query columns that contain personal information?
Yeah, just as I showed you in this, when I create a masking policy, I made it very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Here you can define your roles, which you don't want some particular roles to see it, or you can create a table where you can, have a table where you identify the column and the schema, database schema table, and do that type of lookups, saying
Mm-hmm.
that ignore this or do at runtime you can do that. But for now, for this example, I just made a very pretty simple one.
No, I think that makes sense. Also, I feel like if I have to say create column masking or other role-based access controls, I also need to know the specific columns where I know there will be PII. And so I can not give access to a specific role, just that column, right? But here,
Correct.
the problem is not, I mean, I can still give R back, but some columns, they don't say that these are going to contain PII data because of the naming convention or like different data sources calling them
Yeah.
different rates, like
Correct.
you were talking
Correct.
about earlier. So when you are caught off guard in the place where your data sources are calling it entirely differently, so you have an entire column of PII data that sort of slips through. Here is an
Mhm.
example where you don't have to worry about a specific column, but create a custom classifier, create a tag, but I guess set that tag on the entire table or a database, and now you're able to do this PII, masking for the entire database
Correct.
table.
Correct.
That's fantastic.
And one more thing, when you run this, you can specify how frequently it will be run. So, sometimes you could say it, run it every 30 days and or every 6 months or a year. So those, and it will automatically run in the background. So this is, you just do it, set it up for a table, schema, database, and then this will be running automatically in the background as per the frequency you have defined.
Got it. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
because sometimes back, I just did a very simple test where, I created a copy of that table and I gave it, I created a table called customers new, and I
Mhm.
said, okay, after I, I assigned this classification profile to the complete schema, and then I said, check it after 2 days, and that automatically the data was hidden for the analyst role. So that is automatic in the background.
Awesome. I think this is perfectly leading to, I think, Lazar's question.
Okay.
Looks like you did the classification through analyst role. So is this possible with any role? I think it's SWOT, right? You did the classification from
No,
account
I
analyst.
did for account admin role, but if you want to grant a role other than account admin, you can do that also.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you can have different roles, and then you can decide which role is going to be this master role that will
That
create
will,
these
yeah,
access control or sensitive secure data policies. But
correct.
if you think your consumer is going to be an analyst, of course, you're not going to create these from an analyst role. Analyst is
Yes,
simply going to consume your data, select, query your
correct,
data.
correct, correct.
Create another role, or call it data engineer or a platform or like data governance role that
Yeah,
can, maybe run through these things so you have clear separation between the roles. Awesome.
correct.
And this, I don't know, will this work on data sharing as well? Avinash has a question, but I wonder how data sharing and this are tied.
It should work on data. I have not tried on data sharing, but technically, looking by their definition, because if your data share is exposed, you
Hmm.
know,
No,
you,
I love these questions because now they are giving us new weekend assignments, Himanshu. They
yeah,
want you to try this this Saturday and come back.
yeah, I need to check that on.
We will try that out and keep you
Yeah,
posted. But better yet, Avinash, you can test it out for us. I know that Himanshu's Medium blog is available for everybody to go check it out. So why don't you try your hands on it? Maybe write a LinkedIn post about it and tag Himanshu and we would love to see if this will work for data sharing or not. If not, never mind. We will also get to it
yeah,
and share
yeah,
it with you.
that's right.
But yes, that's fantastic. And I feel like we are at the end of the demo and great questions, folks. I'm probably going to call, maybe give a minute or two for any last questions for lurkers out there. But if not, I know we're also sort of coming up on time. Can we scan the identifiers at schema level? Sivram has a question.
Yeah, I for in our demo we went through a table. But if you don't want to do it at table level, you can just run it at your account or at a database level. These line number 224, 225, and 226. These are the one, 224 and 25. These two. One is at the schema level, and one is, sorry, I'm showing you skipping. But if you see this is schema, you can do it at a schema or a database level also.
Got it. Yeah. I think in this example, we used it on the customers table, but
Custom,
you
yeah,
can do
yeah.
it on the schema or the database level as well.
Yeah.
Great. And I think Thiru Vikraman has a question. I think there is a lot of overlap between RBAC and how we do this. And he asks, does this override any existing RBAC? I don't think so. No.
No, it won't. It won't overwrite. No, because
Exactly.
this goes by your. There could be a clash between this and your role-based security also because this sits at a lower level. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome.
So
And
yeah.
I think, yeah, this is set at a lower. Oh, wow. Okay, a lot of questions. Let me get to them. I think one of them, oh my God. Okay. This is the best thing about the community, Himanshu. I know you're very active in the community. You're like power user of Snowflake and a champion. But I have one more here, Wasik Hussain, who says, yes, data masking can work with data sharing if the masking policy is applied before the data is shared. That's what my hunch also was, but I did not want to just say it without testing it out. Thanks so much, Vasik. We want more of you. Maybe I'm bringing you up on the next episode up here to show or try that out. And we have a couple more questions. Let's get to them. All right. Lazar has another follow-up question, which is to take care of secondary role users, you may check for inherit role instead of current role. Oh, I see. In the current role that you used to create the masking policy, he's saying you can also use inherit role. Like, I love how folks want to give us weekend assignments, like I was saying, but this is fantastic. You can also
Okay.
try that out.
Yeah, I'll try that out. Okay.
And first, there's a question from Suwendu. Is this applicable to table with transient type as well?
I think this should be applicable to transient type also. Yeah. But then
Mm,
transient your temporary table, correct? Once you use
yes.
your
But when we do the scheduling part, which is why I'm like, because for a transient table, which is almost like a temporary. I don't think it's persisted. So I don't know how the scheduling would work when we want to run it for a certain period of time,
yeah,
right?
because sometimes there could be a lag, like you do a schema level and you say that repeat it every
Oh,
week or a month, and the new table is created, and that is table is created today, but your schedule is going to run after 3 days. Then you are that for those 3 days, it's better you run it manually for those tables
got it.
if they are exposed.
Okay, so that makes sense. And okay, so there is one more question from Mark, I think very relevant to what we have here. When creating a mask, can you have it so that it shows the last four digits only?
Yes, if you see your masking policy where I have done, I'm just showing XXX, you can just say that, you know what, I have not tried that. After this call, maybe I will try it and let you know.
Yep. I see
Yeah,
like there's a bunch of updates coming to your Medium blog, which is
okay.
all the more reason y'all should check out his Medium blog, folks, and give a thumbs up or claps or let him know that this blog was very helpful for you. All right. And I think with that, oh, okay. So I think I have just one more question before we wrap up. I love this. This is probably the most engaging live session ever. Himanshu, you're probably getting the demoer of the year. Maybe we should make an award or something. Anyway, one last question. Do we need to implement a custom classifier only for scenarios where the column names are misleading or when the default Snowflake classifier does not cover the required fields? That's a very good question.
No, I think you should do it when default doesn't cover up. Otherwise, most of the time, Snowflake is taking care of all the other classifiers.
Mm-hmm.
As you saw in our example, it identified those two columns also, but others, which the names and all those things, they were also tagged by default. So most probably stay in the default, create customs only when you need it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, Himanshu, we skipped this in the slides. You had one slide, the last one was about best practices or when to use it, right? Which
Yeah.
said, like from the Snowflake documentation also, it says very clearly that the default classifiers work well if the column names are rightly aptly named. And if it's not, that's a very good excuse to go build your own custom classifier. Or
Correct.
like Amit was saying, if an existing classifier does not cover, feel free to do that as well. That is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, because if Snowflake starts checking into the data, that which means that you'll get a lot of false positives, like the zip code, which is also a 9-digit number, that will also be tagged as an SSN. So
Got it. Awesome. And oh wow. Okay. So Wasiq Hussain is back again, helping answer one of our questions. The table type, permanent, transient, or temporary, does not affect how masking policies are enforced. So even
okay,
I think validating your answer, Himanshu, earlier, which is great.
okay,
I'm telling you, I know this is the first episode of its kind, bringing in a power user and a Snowflake champion from the community, but it looks like we're getting more looking at the signs of it. With that said, we are done with all these questions. Thank you so much, firstly, for building a super cool demo and coming here talking to us all about it, and I guess educating us on how to really work with custom classifier, how to use tags, and also for writing this fantastic blog that we could go check it out to build it ourselves. Thank you so much, Himanshu. And for folks watching, we will post the link to Himanshu's Medium blog. Check it out, give it a thumbs up, claps, whatever this is. We would love for you to show how helpful this was for you. Thanks again, Himanshu.
thank you, Vino, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank,
See you next week, folks.
yeah, thank you.